Hello, my name is John Burris. Thank you for joining me today for this short video. This video is called Natural Recovery from Addictions Part 4. This is the final segment of my 4-part series on addictions, showing you a new model. And in this section, I'll be giving you more solutions and how to heal from a natural perspective from addictions. So as we join this segment today, my model is completely different. And if you would like to go back and review parts 1, 2, and 3, I'll give you more background on this. I believe the current model, which is 90 years old, is a very broken model. It's never really worked at all. It's a compensation model, not a cure model. Being addicted to control is what people are seeking. That's called sobriety. And demonizing something, alcohol, drugs, sugar, is not the solution because it keeps you in jail for your entire life. The solution is to follow natural principles of having a relationship with your emotions, learning how to relax, and that's how you cure from your addiction cycles. So I'm not here to give you a medical diagnosis or a medical treatment. I'm just here to give you a new solution that some people might be looking for. And in this journey today, I'll be showing you all kinds of new solutions and new possibilities for you. Once again, I believe the 90-year-old model is broken, and in order to fix it, we have to basically shake it up a little bit and go in a new direction, and I believe this is what this new model is all about. I find that the current model does not accurately diagnose what addiction is, and it basically just distracts you with meetings and other things, and it doesn't really get to the source of your issue. So if you follow my model, I take you through the source of why we have addictions and how to cure yourself from that. And it does take work. It's not an easy, simple magic pill. It takes work, but if you're going in the wrong direction, it's not going to work at all. And I think the scientific model that we've been under, the medicalized model, is blaming our genes and our biology for addictions is taking us in the wrong direction. So the new direction I'm taking you in is more of a natural, emotional approach. And this is my definition of what an addiction is. An addiction is a relationship with a person, object, thought, behavior, or emotion that is used to numb out an uncomfortable feeling or sensation. The way I see addictions is you have addictions on one side, and on the opposite side of the balancing scale, you have your sensations and emotions. People who can't feel their feelings have more addictions. So here's the balancing scale model that I like to use. On one side we have addictions, the other side we have emotions. So the people with the most emotional intelligence, they do their emotional homework. They had good parenting, good schooling. They were allowed to feel emotional freedom and have a functional working relationship with their emotions. The fewer addictions they have, because they don't need to, because they can process their conflicts. However, the people with the most addictions, is going to be on this side of the scale, have little to no emotional intelligence. They didn't have good parenting. They were told to hold their emotions inside, and they don't have a relationship with their emotions. So they have the most addictions. So it's a scale. And unfortunately, the last 90 years, we've been working on the wrong side of the scale. We've been putting 90% of our effort into demonizing something, sugar, alcohol, cocaine, whatever, and very little effort on the side where I think is most important is learning to feel, express, and learning to relax. And that's just where my model takes us. 95% of the work here is learning how to relax and how to process your emotions in a functional manner. That's why model is different. The old model is focusing on demonizing the addiction. My model is focusing on learning how to feel and process. A lot of our addiction experiences starts at birth trauma and early infant trauma, where we're left alone, for example. So in a healthy relationship, you have baby Mary here who's held 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 3 years of life, and she develops a belief the world's a safe place. She can relax. She doesn't have to look over her shoulder. She believes she's safe all the time. However, baby Peter here is left alone in his blue room. And as he's struggling to survive emotionally, he develops a belief the world's a scary place. Don't trust anybody. Don't ever let go. Look over your shoulder your whole life. His stress response is turned on. so we can never relax. Well, that's the source of most of our addictions, how we were first parented in our birthing experience. We're taught to basically not trust anybody and never relax, and that creates all kinds of havoc in our body, and that's the source of most of our addictions. Where baby Mary here is going to have fewer health issues, fewer addiction issues, because she feels safe inside and she feels like she can let go and trust and doesn't have to deal with that other issue that Peter has to deal with. So the modern Western scientific pediatrician-driven model where you leave a child alone for hours on end creates this stress within the baby. The stress response is turned on. As the stress response is turned on, now people feel they need to medicate themselves because as adults it's still turned on. A healthy parenting looks like this, where a child is carried and held 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 2 or 3 years of life, where they develop a belief the world's a safe and trusting place. Stress can seem like a barometer. Where do we operate from? Well, you're born in today's culture, the science-driven, pediatric-driven culture. You're basically, this is where you live. You live in stress response. And you're always stressed one way or the other, and so you're always looking ways to medicate. You're actually never really relaxed. The goal is to get you here as your base response, your set point. But most people live from stress because of their birthing experience, driven by science and pediatricians, and they're never really relaxed. And that's the source of most of our addictive experiences. We can't get to relaxation because of how we were born and raised. So in my natural recovery from addictions model, what I've tried to do is first analyze what the problem is. And the way I see it, the problem is twofold. One is we can't relax because of how we are birthed and raised. And two is we never received the information, the training on how to process our emotions. We don't have a relationship with grief or anger or shame or sadness. So we avoid them and we medicate ourselves when situations come up. You're at work and you have an incident with a colleague or your boss, and it causes you to feel disempowered and out of control, so you go home and you drink or you shove cookies down your mouth because it's your way of comforting yourself and creating a high feeling because you don't know how to process that feeling of being out of control or disempowered. So my experience is, well, let's teach people how to relax, and let's teach people how to process their emotions so they don't have to use addictions to medicate themselves for. So that's the solution. Identifying the problem and then the correct solution, which is learn to relax and learn how to process your emotions. You know, when we're stuck in a stress response, we don't feel good. We have headaches, we can't sleep at night, our eyes are tight, our jaw is tight, our back hurts, because stress creates a body under distress. As a body worker for 40 years plus, and a movement therapist and a yoga therapist and a body-mind therapist, I can tell you, almost nobody ever comes to me relaxed. They're all in a state of distress, one way or the other. Because living in life, we don't know how to relax, we medicate, and we don't relax, so your body is suffering. So that's why we have so many physical ailments, because we don't know how to relax, we don't know how to let the anger, the grief out, and get it out of our body. It stores in our heart. You know, a lot of heart attacks are about anger stored in the heart. A lot of cancers, lung cancer, for example, is about grief stored in the lungs. So a lot of what happens is if the emotion doesn't come out, it goes back into you, and it causes havoc, you know, in a health issue or an emotional issue. And now we need to keep medicating ourselves from emotion that we can't get out of us. You know, when you have a complete emotional experience, for example, a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum, they go through their flailing their arms, flailing their legs, crying, screaming. They're in the emotion. They're not in their thinking brain. They're in their emotion. And basically, if they complete the cycle, if a healthy parent allows them to complete the cycle, as they emerge, they come into relaxation response. Once they finish that emotional event, their nervous system turns back to relaxation. They're not stuck in it. But even when we have a small emotional experience, if we don't get all the way through it, we get stuck in it. It still causes havoc because we never finish it. If you complete an emotional experience, then your nervous system turns back to relaxation. If you don't complete the experience or you stuff it down with an addictive process or chemical, then you're stuck in it and your body feels crazy. I found a lot of the healing came in the yoga experience because yoga and fitness are two completely different experiences. But what I've discovered is the two most important ways to heal from addictions are learn how to relax, because then you change your set point, and learn how to process all of your emotions. That's the key. Some of the helpful yoga tools I've learned were yoga classes, regular yoga classes, yoga nidra, and restorative yoga, and I'll talk a little bit about each one of those. So here's the main difference between yoga and fitness. I was a workout junkie for many years. I'd cycled, I swam, played tennis, racquetball, lifted weights, did my aerobic classes, did the treadmill, did all of it. And you leave the gym feeling pumped up. You're pumped up on testosterone, adrenaline, cortisol. You're pumped up on stress drugs. So you're still stressed out. You're not really relaxed. Even though you feel better, you're actually drugged out on stress hormones when you leave the gym. When you leave the yoga class, in my experience, having taken hundreds and hundreds of classes, you're more of a relaxation response because it's a different type of breathing. Breathing through your nose, usually it's a very focused breath through the nose. And there's a shavasana period at the end where you're relaxed and restored. And this expansive movement where you're open your body, where most gym workouts are about closing your body and shortening and tightening and hardening. So in the yoga classes, the attempt, and it doesn't always happen, but the attempt is to get you into relaxation response. And if you do that over and over again for years on end, you set your set point to relaxation. So you're not in a stress response so much. Your set point is actually at a relaxation response. Also, I've learned that yoga nidra is like a guided meditation, somebody taking you through your body, and you can relax intentionally with your mind. And there's also what's called restorative yoga, which you're laying in a supported position, and the supported bolsters and the focused breathing helps your body relax as your mind calms down, and that helps restore your set point. And here's a picture of a restorative yoga pose where you're actually just lying down and allowing your body to soften with feeling safe and supported and just letting go. And this helps set your set point. Remember, our nervous system, because of our early childhood trauma, is usually set in stress. This is where most people live. And they medicate themselves with addictions because it feels horrible to be stressed all the time. Now they'll go on vacation and their stress level drops down a little bit. And all of a sudden, they're here. They come back from vacation, they're there. But what happens on Monday morning when they go back to work? Their stress point goes back there because they haven't set it low enough. You've got to spend enough time and energy focusing on resetting your stress point so that you're more of a relaxation experience that occasionally goes into stress and not living there. People who live in the stress response are always going to be highly addictive because they can't ever relax because their set point is no longer here, it's there. And they never really get out of stress. They're always looking over their shoulder for danger. So I find one of the key ingredients of recovering from addictions from a natural perspective is you've got to create a set point where you're in relaxation most of the time. Now the way stress is designed to work is that when there's an event in our life, let's say a bear chasing after you down the trail, you're supposed to be in stress. It's supposed to act in a way to get your body to move so you can take action. When there's a fire coming at you, stress is there to save your life, but we're not designed to live there all the time. Unfortunately, because of our early birthing experiences and our childhood trauma, we live there and we never get out of it. And so we medicate ourselves. And people lie to themselves, say, oh, I had 2 glasses of wine, I'm relaxed. No, you're not. Your nervous system is still in a distressed state, but you're compensating by alcohol use or some other kind of medication or addiction. So stress is designed to turn off, not always be on. We've created a system in our culture where the stress response is turned on. So I find that many of the yoga practices and techniques are some of the best ways to reset your nervous system to your mostly always in a relaxation response And occasionally you will dip into a stress response, but your body comes back out of it after the danger is left. And that danger could be real or imaginary. Stuck in traffic is an imaginary danger, but your body responds the same way as if you're being chased by a bear down a trail. So we have to learn how to stay in a relaxation response more frequently and not compensate with other measures, which is what addictions are doing. I found that professional massage therapy is also a great tool to keep you in a relaxation response. And when you're in a relaxation response, you have far fewer addictions. I've received hundreds and hundreds of massages over the course of my lifetime. Sometimes for decades I would get a massage once a week just to keep the stress level down and keep my barometer at a relaxation response so I wasn't always in stress. I even created a technique where I would get 3 massages in a day, and I do that with clients. Come for 3 1.5 hour massages in a single day, and it lowers your barometer of stress response. So you're lowering it so your set point is more frequently in a relaxation response. And so sometimes you have to do extra things. And I find that, somebody gets a massage once a year while they're on vacation, it's not going to do much for you. You've got to do enough regular things so that your stress response lowers to a relaxation response and it stays there more often. So I found massage therapy a great tool for that. And here's a really super important thing. So working as a body-mind therapist, studying craniosacral therapy, I found if you work on young children, especially after birth, you can remove the birth trauma. I've seen young infants who were colicky and angry and crying all the time and had poor digestion, and you do a couple of craniosacral sessions on their neck and their head and their shoulders, and it releases the trauma from birth. What happens is, as we're being born, we're being squeezed and locked in, and the vagus nerve in the back of the neck here often gets jammed, and that affects the digestion, the heart rate, and many other things. So if parents would realize if they did 5 to 10 craniosacral sessions with a professional craniosacral therapist, the first weeks of life for their infant, they're going to change their infant's life completely because they're not going to be in a state of distress and they're not going to have leftover birth trauma. That in itself is the greatest gift you can give your children. Craniosacral therapy is a very light touch and it creates a space in the tissues so the nerves aren't being compressed and creates a freedom of experience for not just the infant but the adult as well. And it changes somebody's direction in life. Here's a baby who was in distress after birth because they're all jammed up. And this leads to an adult who's in distress. And here's a baby receiving craniosacral therapy. Clear eyes, joyful, happy, no distress because they were relieved of that birth trauma and the early infant trauma that kept most people locked up. And as adults, that doesn't go away. So the greatest gift you can give your children is several craniosacral therapy sessions, and it will relieve a lot of the distress left over from birth and early infancy. Stress lives in the body. There are ways to get it out, but we don't do it. Most people spend more time and money remodeling their bathroom than taking care of their own body and taking care of their children and whatnot. And look at what we spend our money on: our cars, our watches, our jewelry, our vacations, yet our bodies are falling apart. So invest in yourself, invest in your children. Get the stress out of the body and we will live a better life. And you'll have far fewer addictions if you get to the source of the issue here. The second part of the equation is having a functional relationship with all your emotions. Learn about grief, learn about anger, learn about fear. You can read books, and that's a starting point. You can go to workshops. You can work with a private therapist. You can do all kinds of things, but the secret is you got to do the work. You got to make emotions important. Go rent all kinds of movies that are sad and see what comes up in you. Go take an emotional workshop, see what comes up in you. And so what I find, there's a system called bioenergetics by Alexander Lowen. And bioenergetics, in my experience, helped get the energy out of my body. It helped release trapped anger and fear in me and sadness buried underneath it all. And I used to teach a course called Emotional Yoga, where I used the yoga practice to get the energy that was stuck in us. So you've got to take steps to have a relationship with your emotions. So this is Bioenergetics by Alexander Lowen. It helps shake the emotion out of your body that's been stuck. When it comes to healing from addiction, these are some of the steps that I recommend. Admit that you have a problem. Accept the consequences. Make a commitment to feel. Seek support. You can't always do it yourself. Have a plan. Reduce the damage and harm reduction. Reduce the sabotage. Cleanse the body. Come out of your trance. Notice your relationship you have with that addiction. Trace the origin. And then practice feeling. Let's break down some of these steps here. Number one, admit you have a problem. If you don't admit you have a problem, you haven't even started the journey yet. Admitting, hey, I use this, I have a problem. That's the first step, admitting you have a problem. Second step is accept the consequences. Yeah, I eat a lot of donuts, so I get fat. So I'm accepting that. That's why I gain weight, because of my eating habits, because I use food to stuff my emotions. You might start to admit that. Make a commitment to feel like, okay, I know I'm stuck here. I'm really got a bottled up anger, bottled up grief. I have to make a commitment to learn how to feel that and release that. Seek support, a therapist, a course, online course, an in-person course. Find somebody to help you learn how to feel and relax. Go to yoga classes. Learn how to process your emotions. Have a plan. Okay, this is my plan. I'm going to do this therapy or this course or read these books. Have a plan. Start by reducing the sabotage. Instead of eating 10 cookies a day, say, well, I'm only going to eat 5 cookies a day. Instead of smoking 30 cigarettes a day, say, I'm only going to smoke 10 cigarettes a day. So you start to reduce the damage. Reduce the sabotage. If you have chocolate underneath your pillow, you're sabotaging yourself. If you're hanging out with those friends who are doing drugs, you're sabotaging yourself. So in order to heal, you've got to stop the sabotage. Cleanse the body. A lot of our addictions are stuck in our body because our bodies are toxic. They're toxic from what we've eaten and put into our body. So start a cleansing process and you'll get your cells nourished and your tissues nourished. Come out of your trance. When we're in an addictive cycle, we're in a trance with a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde concept. So come out of your trance and say, wow, for all these years, I didn't even know I was an alcoholic or a drinker or a smoker or a power-hungry addict. So come out of your trance. Notice your relationship. You can say, well, I'm lonely, I eat. When I'm frustrated, I gamble. When I'm sad, I do online shopping. So notice the relationship between what you're doing and the emotion behind it. Trace the origin. You say, well, in high school I started smoking marijuana. In college I started drinking. So go back to when it started and why you chose that in your life. You chose it. You said, I want this. Go back to the origin and try to find out why you chose that. And finally, just practice feeling. Every day you can, practice an emotion. Watch a movie, go to the ocean and feel the aliveness of nature. Practice feeling your feelings. That's the healing cycle here. Once again, this is my new natural recovery from healing model. Addictions over here, emotions over here. The more energy you spend practicing your emotional intelligence and learning how to relax, the fewer addictions you're going to need. The people who are the most addicted don't know how to relax and they don't know how to process their emotions. So 95% of the work is going to be here. And that's the difference between my model and the current 90-year-old model out there right now. Much of this natural healing model is covered in my book, Return to Nature, The 5 Pillars of Healing. You can get that at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or my website, JohnBurris.com, where it gives you much more information than I provided in this video. So that's the story about the natural healing model that I present today. It's a lifetime of work because we've all kind of gotten a hole early on. But you can do it. I can do it. We can all do it. But if we're going in the wrong direction, it can't be done. And I find most people are heading the wrong direction, thinking if I just go to meetings the rest of my life, I'll be healthy. And that doesn't work. Keeps you in control, but it doesn't necessarily cure you from anything. So follow the model, read the book, and follow a natural healing model. Be part of the leading edge community of people looking for new and exciting ideas. Thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to know more about me, please subscribe to my channel here for more leading edge videos to come. You can go to my website, johnburris.com, for great articles and information. So thank you for joining me today.